Every story of greatness begins with a whisper, a quiet dream no one believes in. And for Eyman Fatima, that whisper came from the dusty grounds of Rawalpindi, Pakistan. A little girl with a bat too big for her hands, and dreams too large for her small world. In a country where cricket is a religion, but mostly a man's game, Eyman dared to see herself in the center of the pitch, facing fiery bowlers. Not with fear, but with fire. While other girls her age played with dolls, Eyman played with destiny. She grew up in a modest home where her father would often tell her, "If you love something, let your effort prove it." There were no fancy academies, no private coaches, only a patchy ground, an old bat, and her unstoppable spirit. Each morning, as the sun rose over Rawalpindi, Eyman would tie her hair, grab her bat, and walk toward the neighborhood ground. She was often the only girl there. The boys laughed. Some mocked. Others ignored her. But Eyman didn't come for their approval. She came for their respect. With every ball she hit, she was not just scoring runs, she was breaking barriers. Her hands bruised, her clothes dusty, her heart full of fire. When she returned home, her mother would scold her for being out too long. But secretly, she admired her daughter's courage. By age 13, people started noticing the little girl who hit like a storm. Coaches from local academies began whispering about her talent. She wasn't just good for a girl, she was good, period. But behind every breakthrough lies a wall of struggle. There were days when Eyman's family couldn't afford gear. She played in torn shoes, shared bats with teammates, and sometimes walked miles to reach the ground. Yet not once did she complain. Because she had already made a promise, not to her family, not to her team, but to herself, that one day she'd wear the green jersey of Pakistan. And soon, destiny began to listen. The journey from a dusty ground to the national arena is never simple. For Eyman Fatima, it was a test of faith, patience, and pure passion. Her talent began to shine at the junior levels, where she consistently dominated matches, scoring runs with fearless precision. Coaches started calling her the Little Firestorm, because once she got going, nothing could stop her. Eyman's determination caught the attention of selectors. Soon, she was picked for Pakistan's under-19 women's team, a dream she had once whispered into the night sky. But with opportunity came responsibility and pressure. The green jersey wasn't just a piece of cloth anymore. It was a weight of expectations, the prayers of millions, and the echo of every young girl who wanted to be seen, to be heard, to be believed. Her first international appearance was more than just a game, it was history in the making. Standing beneath the bright lights, as the national anthem played, she closed her eyes and whispered, "This is for all the girls who were told they can't." And when the game began, she didn't just play, she performed. Eyman's powerful shots, fearless attitude, and calm focus stunned everyone. Commentators started calling her Pakistan's young sensation. Each boundary she hit was not just a number on the board. It was a statement to every girl in Pakistan. You can too. But fame comes with its own storms. Critics began comparing her to legends, expecting perfection every time she walked in. The spotlight that once inspired her now started to burn. There were days when she struggled with form, when failures hurt more than the bruises. But Eyman learned early that failure is not the end. It's a teacher. Her coaches often said, "Eyman doesn't just bat with her hands, she bats with her heart." And that heart never stopped believing. She trained harder, practiced longer, and silenced every doubt with discipline. Slowly, she began to rise again, stronger, wiser, and more focused than ever. Eyman wasn't just becoming a cricketer anymore, she was becoming a symbol. A symbol of resilience, of women's empowerment, of what happens when you dare to dream in a world that tells you not to. It was the match that changed everything. Pakistan versus Zimbabwe, the under-19 Women's T20 World Cup. The crowd wasn't huge, but the moment was massive. Eyman walked to the crease with quiet confidence. She wasn't thinking about the cameras, the critics, or even the pressure. She was thinking about that little girl who once played on a dusty Rawalpindi field. From the very first ball, something felt different. The rhythm, the timing, the flow, it was like poetry in motion. She smashed boundaries, found gaps, and ran with fierce energy. Every stroke she played echoed across the stadium, a declaration that a new star had arrived. Eyman Fatima went on to score one of the fastest half-centuries in the tournament's history. Her bat spoke louder than words. By the end of the innings, she had not just scored runs. She had written her name in the future of Pakistan cricket. Commentators described her as fearless and graceful, like a storm in control. Social media flooded with praise. The future of Pakistan is here. A legend in the making. But Eyman, even in that moment of fame, stayed humble. She simply said, "This is just the beginning." And indeed, it was. Her consistency in the tournament earned her recognition, not only at home but globally. The ICC featured her as one of the emerging stars to watch. She became a symbol of Pakistan's new era of women's cricket, bold, confident, and full of hope. After returning home, she was welcomed like a hero. For her family, it was a dream come true. Tears of pride filled her father's eyes as he said, "You did what I couldn't even imagine." For the girls in her neighborhood, she became a name that turned disbelief into inspiration. The same ground that once mocked her now echoed her name with pride. But Eyman knew, glory isn't a destination. It's a responsibility. She began mentoring young girls, sharing her story, her struggles, and the message that nothing is impossible when your heart burns with purpose. Because for her, cricket wasn't just a game anymore. It was a voice for change. A reminder that passion, when paired with perseverance, can rewrite the rules of history. As the years went by, Eyman Fatima continued to rise, not just as a cricketer, but as a voice of strength and belief. She knew that talent may open doors, but character keeps them open. Every time she walked onto the field, she carried more than a bat. She carried hope. Hope for every girl who wanted to step out of her home and chase something bigger than fear. In interviews, Eyman often spoke about her journey. Not as a story of luck, but as a story of courage. She would say, "It's not about being the best. It's about being brave enough to begin." Her leadership, her calm focus, and her relentless work ethic made her one of the brightest prospects for Pakistan's future. Even senior players admired her for her humility and maturity beyond her years. To the world, she was a rising star. But to those who knew her closely, she was a fighter, soft-spoken, yet unbreakable. Eyman began to visit schools and cricket academies, meeting young girls who looked at her with the same spark she once had. She told them, "You don't need anyone's permission to dream. You just need your own belief." Through her story, the idea of women's cricket in Pakistan began to transform. It was no longer a forgotten corner of the sport. It became a symbol of empowerment, of what was possible. In the eyes of many, Eyman was not just batting for runs. She was batting for representation, for respect, for recognition. And that's what makes her legacy so powerful. Even at such a young age, her impact had already begun to ripple across generations. Girls started picking up bats, asking for training, demanding equal opportunities because they had seen someone like them succeed. And that's the true meaning of greatness, when your success inspires others to believe in themselves. Today, when people talk about Eyman Fatima, they don't just talk about her cover drives or her records. They talk about her fire. The quiet, steady, unshakable fire that turned dreams into destiny. Eyman's journey reminds us that greatness isn't born in privilege. It's forged in persistence. She is not done yet. Her story is still being written, one match, one dream, one boundary at a time. And somewhere out there, another little girl watches her, holding a bat too big for her hands, whispering to herself, "One day I'll be like Eyman Fatima."